But now you can do things on your own, using your own resources, your own talent, your own resources, and so on. So in terms of education, what independence would entail is that instead of the Gambia depending on other nations for education policies and practices, we can now develop our own education policy, and also we can also man the affairs of our education, so that we look at what is needed in the society, what kind of society do we need to produce based on our social and economic situation, so that the education sector would direct its efforts towards producing the manpower that is needed to steer the economy and the social and cultural affairs of the country. I think that is, in the nutshell, that is what I would.
Absolutely.
When it comes to the curricula, could you just take some time to describe the themes of curriculum as obtained in the education system, let me say the basic education system in the Gambia? What are the themes that reflect the independence?
Well, if I remember very well, and I think I am right, we introduce children as early as grade 3 on the issues of independence. One, if you look at the grade 3 books, well, grade 3 we have integrated studies, which actually consist of the social sciences and also natural sciences. There are themes on the social science, social culture, and natural sciences. So, grade 3, we introduce children to the national flag. The children are also introduced to the National Coat of Arms. If you look at the Gambia National Coat of Arms,
the two lions.
We have the two lions,
the palm tree, and
the palm tree, and also the hoe, the helmet, and the hoe and the axes.
Okay.
So children are introduced to that National Coat of Arms, and they are told or they are taught what they mean. That is at the level of grade 3.
Okay.
So because our curriculum is spiral, that means that we introduce children to issues in small digestible pieces, step by step. So basically, at the basic level, children are introduced to the National Coat of Arms.
Okay.
They are also taught how to sing the national anthem at the level of grade 3. At the level of grade 5, the issue of National Coat of Arms and also the national anthem are expanded. Their meanings, what do they mean? They are also expanded. So they are explained in details.
Yeah.
And if you look at our grade 5, okay, sorry, before I go further, from grade 1 to grade 4, we have integrated studies.
Yes.
So in grade 3, there is a topic on National Coat of Arms and also the national anthem. But from grade 5, we teach social and environmental studies. From grade 5 to grade 9 is now social and environmental studies. So there now you separate science and the social issues. Then we have science, we have social and environmental studies. So if you look at our grade 5 materials, the issue of the National Coat of Arms, the Gambia flag are again built on. So what the children were introduced in grade 3 are now built on and expanded in grade 5. And then in grade 5, children are introduced to national celebration. What are the national celebrations? There you have the Korite, the Eid prayers, the Christmas, and so on. So in that, there is independence celebration in grade 5. So children are introduced to Independence Day celebration. And if you look at, if I remember very well, in grade 5 books, in our grade 5 social and environmental studies book, if I remember very well, I think page 34.
Page 34.
Page 34, you'll find the photo of Sir Dawda and his entourage, and I think Queen.
The father of Gambia's independence.
Yes, yes.
And of course, this is even the main scenario why that everybody celebrates independence in this country. Every time when it is independence, your national centers, it is celebrated both nationally and internationally. This happened year after year. So now that even in the curriculum, Doctor, we have this message highly enshrined in the curriculum, in textbook, behind it, what message are people being told? Like grade 3, for example, you know the Gambia flag, red, white, blue, white, green, and then they would ask, what about colors in national independence? Wouldn't they ask?
Yes, because the aim of education is to develop critical minds. So I'm sure some critical minds would definitely ask that question. But even if you look at our textbooks, those colors are explained. They'll tell you red is for the sun, white is for peace, blue is for River Gambia, white again is peace, and green is agriculture.
Yeah.
So the national motto also is taught. I think it's progress, peace, and prosperity. I don't know, PPP or
yes.
So that is to instill in children kind of nationalism. What do we uphold as a nation? You know, peace is very important.
It is.
And I think one of the things the Gambia is well known for is peace. So the National Coat of Arms also is explained, is taught together with the motto. So as I said, in grade 6, children now are gradually introduced to the struggles for independence. So grade 6, they are now ready to receive information or to receive materials on the struggles for independence. You know, how did it start? You know, it tells you about the efforts of Edward Francis Small. You know, what led to the development of trade unions. And it will tell you, the materials will tell you that during the British colonial administration, people were made to pay tax. And it's out of that tax that is plowed back for developments. This is another subject that we can definitely
the
expand.
taxation aspect of it.
The taxation.
Yeah, and then if you coming back to the curriculum, you know, in every society, people learn history to be able to move on. But right now, maybe we talk about quickly about when you inform people about history, such as colonial rule. Colonial rule means, you know, a foreign force extended its powers to another country. So the mind will automatically click on that. So do we put into consideration as to possible reaction of students, especially as they mature, because you can see the stages of curriculum being expanded. In fact, the same topic from the Gambia flag, the national flag, the emblem, the coat of arms, and all of them, they continue to be expanded. And over a time, so students will begin to feel that, okay, why must we had been, colonized, or why should another country extend its powers to our country so much that, Gambians or figures like the founding fathers had to come and then fight for freedom. So would the curriculum take care of, emotions like that?
Yes, because the purpose of education is to develop people to have critical minds. Is to give people the knowledge, the skills, and attitudes. And if you look at history, I don't want to get into the domains of Mr. Hazim Sise. I'm not a historian,
Yes.
but of late, definitely I appreciate history. I mean, my background, I'm a physics and mathematics teacher.
Yeah, and
So you can see, the science students are not very much very good at in
and
arts.
of course, by academic, you
yes,
are
yes.
automatically a historian.
Yes, but why do we teach history? Is for people to know the past, to enable them to connect that past to the present, and also map out the future. So, what happened before? How would that impact on our today's life? Or how has that impact on our today's life?
Yes.
And how do we use that knowledge and understanding to be able to project our future? Simple example. We are in the era of COVID-19.
Yes.
But when there was pandemic, there was a reflection on Spanish flu. Is it Spanish flu that
Yeah,
happened some time ago?
The SSR.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that helped, the scientists to be able to come out with some of the preventive measures. Likewise, in education, the history of education is very helpful for the planners to be able to connect that history to the present, and then say, yes, this is what happened, this is what is happening, but this is how we need to develop our education. For example, I know from literature and from various means that a lot happened before and after, during and after colonial period. During the struggle for independence, we started well before. Like there was education policy. I think that was Mi'kmaq policy in 1943.
Okay.
There is another policy called the Baldwin report. That was in 1951. But that policy, the development of that policy and the reaction of people tells us a lot about how we should develop our education.
Okay.
Why do we call it Baldwin report? Is that this is an expert, sort of an expert called Baldwin. I can't remember is it MT or I can't remember the first name.
Education.
But he was assigned to study, to look at how education is and how education can be developed. So he did his consultation here and there, just as now what we make policies, and then came up with a report. And that report was presented in the House of Representatives, in the House or in the Parliament.
Okay.
And if you look at newspapers at the time, there was a lot of interest in what was going on in the House. Because, Baldwin's report has got a recommendation, and people were looking out for what is going to be the reaction of the House, with regards to that recommendation.
What were the major content in the report that would
Yeah,
make people interested?
the report is very wide. The report suggests that we should endeavor to diversify education, like, for example, the technical and vocational education initiative. To provide education that is very close to what people are doing in the farm, improve farming methods, to have vocational education and so on, so that people can have skills. That was a good idea.
Very good idea indeed. And then just to come back to you, because this is a very important subject of discussion, but I need to remind my listeners that this is our series of independence programs at iAfrica TV. With me, like I said, is Dr. Brahma Jame, who is a retired educationist. Until December 2020, he was the Director of Curriculum at the Ministry of Basic and Secondary Education. So we know that Dr. Brahma has done a lot of research when it comes to curriculum, and then must have found very interesting realities, especially the education that was developed and coined by colonial masters, so-called, in the Gambian system. So in this aspect, Dr. Brahma, would you just tell us what was the focus of education during colonial rule? Because activists would say that everything about the system glorified the Western leader over the Afro-man.
Yeah, this is, I might sound controversial in this respect.
Okay.
Because, people talk about colonial education. That was nothing like colonial education. Colonialists were not interested in educating Gambians. They were not. They were interested in what they can take from here to develop Europe. That was their main interest. Because right now, British, they have that culture. Wherever, even if it is a single British, wherever he or she is, the British have interest in that place.
So those days, just quickly in connection to this point where you are pushing for the actual reality on the time, but every primary school student in those days will remember this song, education is better than silver and gold. So is it also possible to think that the African was set up to focus on a very narrow perspective, while the colonial master takes the gold and the silver? Just contextualize.
This is what is being said. But from my own perspective, it was for education. We can give credit to the missionaries. The missionaries were the ones who were providing education. And it's very simple. They have their agenda. Okay, the first agenda was that people need to be literate in English to be able to
get the message.
Yes, to be able to get the message. All right. But from there now, as they go, the country also needed civil servants. So the people who were taught, at the missionary schools, they were the ones who were brought as clerks, as interpreters, and so on. So because how long have if you look at the British present in the Gambia, it is 18 something or even earlier.
Earlier,
right?
Yes.
But the Department of Education, which have actually grown to the Ministry of Education, was just started in 1940. So could you imagine how many years? And the Department of Education was established. The purpose for establishing Department of Education was to administer grants in aid. Tell me which schools were receiving grants from government, from the colonial government. Basically, it's two. Two schools.
The Gambia High and Armitage?
No, but not Gambia. I didn't before Gambia High School.
Okay.
It was Armitage High School, which was purposely built for the sons of the chiefs. And Mohammedan School.
Okay.
Mohammedan School was established by the Banjul Muslim elders. So you can see because they want to appease the Banjul Muslim elders and also the chiefs. So those are the two, as far as my reading is concerned. There could be more. Maybe later on, it was expanded. When the missionaries went to the extent that funding became a problem, and then the government at that time were dissatisfied with the kind of education provided by the missionaries. Well, that also is a history on its own.
Yeah, so
because they were the colonialists were thinking of a kind of education that would maintain Gambians in the village. Now, so they felt that that education is not relevant. That is what the colonial people. But the Africans wanted the kind of education that would put them in the position to be able to rule, to be able to man positions as the colonial leaders the colonial administrators were handling. So at that time, Africans, this is not only for the Gambia, but you can expand it to many African countries.
Yeah.
They were not interested in any kind of vocational and technical education.
Yeah, but those were the areas that Gambians would need or African will need, because you have the forest, you have the fertile land, you also have everything, the natural resources that could be processed and be used for African market or even for export. Yes. Then at the time in your research or over a decade of working for the education sector, what do we discover needed to be corrected and who was responsible at the time? So could we expand on that?
Yes, I mean we began the correction, and I think still the ministry is going through that direction, because what we are saying is that yes, this has been a history. People were not interested because that is because they were struggling for independence. But we knew that actually, I mean, diversifying curriculum to provide technical and vocational education so that people will have skill is the best. Is the best thing to do. Yes. Because even like, for example, if you look at our WAS, West African Senior Secondary Education, I mean, I said this from many years ago. I mean, our forum, anywhere, even through the media, our curriculum, is too academic. We don't have. We needed to be able to diversify the curriculum to embrace the technical and vocational education. But if you look at the attitudes also of people towards that type of education, but now we have got a solution, because we said that
education managers.
No, even the children themselves, because you tell people that go and do, you have to do, I mean, technical drawing, or you have to do plumbing or something like that. They scorn at you. They look at you and say, well, why? I want to sit in the office. Because that also has a history. It has got the history because of this struggle for independence. It was earlier when the Africans themselves rejected, as I said about Baldwin report, they rejected that kind of education. All what they are looking for is academic education, because they think that it was through academic education that can liberate them. So you can see the purpose of history. Now we know that, yes, we were right at the time because they wanted to liberate themselves. But now that we have, we are managing our own affairs.
Yeah, and of course,
now we need to diversify.
As of now, too, you have education is no more in one's hand, in one man's hand. So it is of stakeholders.
Yes.
So after 50 years after independence, are you seeing the rhythm, or have you been working on a rhythm to really establish the necessary pillars to provide education that is needed in Africa, that is needed to develop the continent? What is the Gambian perspective around that?
Yes, we have started that, and I think it is still going on. Because first, if you look at, we have conducted curriculum review, and we have more. We have more syllabuses on, for example, even plumbing, electricity, energy, and a lot of other vocational, in addition to woodwork, metalwork that we are having. If you look at the senior secondary schools, the agenda is that the senior secondary school should be diversified. Okay. Like, for example, we look at agriculture. All right. In some countries, through my reading, I knew that, in Gambia we Animal husbandry is a subject on its own. Fisheries is a subject on its own. Forestry is a subject on its own. So we have adopted that, at least, because if somebody is doing agriculture as a whole, all right, together with some other subjects, the hardcore English, maths, of course, English, maths are compulsory, but together with some other, subjects, and somebody who is doing, fisheries as a subject, animal husbandry as a subject, general agriculture as we have, together with English and maths and other subjects, who is going to do better? Obviously, the person who is doing these branches, would do better, because in Gambia, because I don't think Gambians are very intelligent.
Absolutely.
Because if you look at the performance of students at the worst level, you look at it, as compared, like the subjects they do, as compared to other countries.
Okay.
All right. In Nigeria, for example, even this GSM mobile technology,
okay,
is a subject. All right. You have refrigeration and air conditioning. It's a subject.
Okay.
Electronics. So you find out that all those, I'm going back as a physics teacher. All those are branches of physics. We do physics as a whole, and also do chemistry and other things. But some people would do a branch of physics, just like GSM mobile repair technology, refrigeration and air conditioning, radio, television. All these are subjects. So my advocacy and the initiative that we have started, it's not me per se, but it's the whole sector together with the conference of principals, is to have those subjects introduced in the school curriculum.
How soon? Is there any deadline that you can think
of?
Well,
our target was 2022, because you have to have certain things in place.
Maturity stage.
Yes, you have to have, because you have to have your syllabus right, you have to have the teachers, all right? But we look at the teacher demand also.
Of course, Doctor, you alluded to the fact that the education system that exists is too academic. Yeah. But the student will always say yes, because if one does very well in English or maths, your chances of getting to university and then eventually having employment is higher than just getting to a skilled subject. So in the Gambia, like any other African country, are you also in that kind of cluster network within the continent to make sure that graduates in these skills that you count in the auto mechanic, the woodwork and so on, that specialists will really have a lucrative place to go and then eventually have a market in Africa for their work?
No, you see, there is already a market. It's just that people are not doing. Imagine, if you have a plumber, a boy who is a plumber, every day, if he has work, he can, minimum, he can have 500, even 1,000.
Dollars,
even more, compared to my salary as a director. So there is already a market. Okay. For this kind of for these technical areas. So in terms of networking with other countries, yes, because we all belong to West African Examinations Council, all right. And then, ironically, what you will see is that what I have discovered in the later part was that the Gambia was the first country to have have a maiden examination for us. Because we used to have GCE O level and A level.
Exactly. What is responsible for that? Because
yes, the Gambia was the first country, but if you look at other countries, they have expanded. So the subjects that we have started since 1998 those are the subjects that we are having now. So that's why we vehemently advocated, and we are still on the advocacy, and I'm sure the ministry is working on that, to make sure that the subjects at worst level are diversified. You talk about English and mathematics. English and mathematics are key. All right? They are very key, because people have all the materials that are written, they are written in English language. And if you go to any field, there is a kind of mathematics that is being taught. Of course, so one of the advocacy there is that perhaps maybe we need to look at the mathematics again, revise it, because the mathematics for a scientist should be different from a mathematics for somebody who is going for commerce. So if you want to give them the same general mathematics, perhaps maybe it might be a problem. You see, but yes, we have looked at what is happening in other countries like Nigeria, Ghana. They have expanded so much. National languages are available at the worst level. Technical. So a lot of things, even cosmetics.
Yeah.
So these are things. So if you have English and maths, and if somebody can present his or her certificate, he has English, maths, physics, biology, and so on, the hard subjects that we are having. This other one also can present his or her certificate, English, maths, GSM, mobile technology, maybe electronics, and so on.
All the technical subjects.
The technical subjects. They all have the same subjects, the same certificate.
So this is a legacy of liberation in your
Yes, because they all have, because previously, the technical subjects are left for the business of skill centers. We say, well, they cannot make it in the mainstream, but let them go to the skill centers. You see? So, but now, if people can present their certificate in this and that, then the playing ground is level. And this one with technical subjects can enter the university, especially now the move that is being taken care of, being done. They have GTTI, upgraded or transformed into technical whatever. So this person can go to the university and do technical and have a degree. Okay. So what I'm saying here is that the issue of leaving the technical and vocational subjects in the hands of skill centers, whereby our thinking is for those who cannot make it in the academic, this actually should be broken. Okay. So that people have equal opportunity. And this is what actually is. So if you look at independence, people should have that independence to pursue the courses that actually are within, the courses that they are interested in. Because interest is very important. So the courses that they are talented in. Because if you want me to do subjects that involve only reading, I'll take example of myself.
And you don't have passion for reading.
Yeah, I'll take an example for of myself. When I was on the teacher training course, as I said, I was doing physics and mathematics.
Okay, calculation.
But anytime I took the prose book, I think there's a book, is it Wuthering Height or something like that?
Literature.
Literature book.
Yes.
So I would say, because all my calculations, I'll be sitting down. So I would say that, okay, reading this, let me lie down to read my prose book or whatever. So if I lie down reading, by the time I realized it, the book was on my eyes.
Asleep,
I slept.
Well,
so thank God I have people, we discuss and I was able to pass. But you see, this is different. So I may sit for a long time to calculate, but if you ask me to read, so long, I may not be so you can see that children have different talents, they have different potentials, and the role of education is to be able to identify those talents and develop them.
Okay, from this point we will take a short break, because like I said, the purpose of this program is to show how far has the continent graduated from Western education. Does Africa really have education? After independence, has it graduated anywhere? Where are those places? With me is Dr. Jame, who is expounding on the key aspect, key themes on curriculum in Africa, Gambia particularly. Don't go away, hang on. I mean it, hang on, because you will not regret being with us at iAfrica TV after this short break.
The pride we take in our brand, the work we put into constantly change the landscape and elevate real estate in the Gambia, it's compared to none. From inception, our goal was to add value to the beautiful Gambian landscape. That's why we are proud innovators of community estates. Colonial is an exceptional piece of work, tailored for ultimate convenience and luxury, to bring you an element of finesse that is rare but unique in its own. This is also our pride and joy, and we welcome you to the exquisite beauty right here in Kololi and right here on the waterfront. Kololi Sands, feel the ocean breeze at your doorstep.
We said we are broadcasting from iAfrica studio in Banjul, and the whole show is about Gambia's 56th independence anniversary, as you can see on the background. Very beautiful country, beautiful background as far as independence is concerned. And today is to continue to expound on the contribution of the education system on this great continent. Dr. Brahma is with me, who is really an expert in his domain, having served as director of curriculum in this country for many years. Where we will now go to is to look at the Baldwin report. This was a policy commissioned by the colonial government. However, the activities and participation around it involved Gambians at the time. Doctor, coming on this report, can you take us through about the major aims of the report and how did it get on at the House of Parliament?
Yes, thank you very much. I think this is very important as far as the Gambia's independence struggle is concerned. If one is an expert, you call him, what is expected is that he will produce an expertise report. And Baldwin was commissioned by the then government to look at the situation of education and come up with recommendations. So he did consultations and then came up with a lot of recommendations. So in those days, how a policy was developed, if an expert was engaged, so that the expert's finding will be looked at and then presented at the House.
Okay.
So the House will accede to it and then adopt it. You know, they will create session paper, this and that, and then, you know, considered as a policy. As I said before, the Baldwin report has a lot of recommendations, and these recommendations include diversifying education, making education close to, you know, family life, and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But there was one recommendation which Africans, were Gambians in particular, the educated Gambians were looking out for. So when Baldwin report was submitted to the House of Representatives at the time, the House looked at it. And if you look at the eve of the House, because we can read this from newspapers,
yes,
how people were eager to you know, they are eager to hear what actually is going to be the outcome
of the
meeting, of the House meeting. And then, you know, the House actually rejected recommendation number 20. And what was that recommendation? That one more senior or secondary school for the Gambia.
What would that mean?
Yeah, because, you know, from the experts' point of view, primary schools were expanding, and we needed more secondary schools to accommodate the primary school graduates. So, but the colonial administration at the time were not interested in general secondary education. What they were interested in is what we are talking about just a few minutes ago before our break.
To keep the Africans on the farm.
On the farm, yes. So that the education will be diversified. Yes, it's a very good idea. But the Gambians at that time, the educated people at that time, were not interested in that, because they were interested in the kind of education that would also put them in managerial position. So this is very important for us.
But this is tactical, you know, move by the Africans themselves.
Yes, yes. So that's why the importance of that history for us today is that while the academic curriculum at that time was helpful for the Gambians to be able to man administrative and managerial position, now with our independence, we need to diversify. It might be relevant at that time, but now academic curriculum doesn't take us anywhere. Look at, I mean, it's so appalling. You look at by 3 o'clock, you look at the amount of children, the amount of youth. People have moved, people are no more on the farm. And, you know, they have not been educated that much. And the amount of job that is available in the formal sector,
very limited.
So if you, people have
really, we want you to explain this point now. Having known these challenges that, you know, white collar job is not everything, why would African, especially Gambian at the time, reject a proposal really that will keep the sectors that are economic drivers of the country away from proceeding to the next stage.
Yes, this is very important. You know, education, the relevance of education actually change over time.
Okay.
As I said at that time, their main interest is, this is all part of struggle for independence.
Okay.
Their main interest is to be educated, to be able to man position. And you
challenge
imagine
the
they were not mistaken, because if you are on the farm at that time, your income is annually when you sell your groundnut. But if you have if you are a civil servant, you are paid monthly. So education at that time was a means of poverty reduction.
Okay.
But now things have changed. So that's what I want to say here is that what we need to understand is that things have changed now. In fact, it's more even lucrative to go into a vocational kind of education. You can be independent, you can be self-sustained, you don't have to report at 8 o'clock and close at 4, and you make more money.
Okay, we know about the vocational education system is really where people are going now. But if you look at Africa right now, of course, few countries have it in their curriculum up to the highest level possible for learning. But the process is absolutely slow. Didn't you notice that? What is responsible for the slow progress of vocational teaching and learning on the top universities for the continent?
Yes, we know, because universities are fed by the secondary school. So if you don't have it in the secondary school, you definitely wouldn't have it at the senior secondary, at the high school, higher level. But if you go to the Parker here, like some of us who have, normally you have old cars.
The second-hand
distance
market for vehicle spare parts. Yes.
Which nationalities are there? If you are a car owner, you can see that those market is
full of sub-regional.
Yes, Nigerians. But I found out that in Nigeria, they have a subject called
auto mechanic.
Car part, is it motor spare part merchandising?
Wow.
As a subject at once.
Of course.
So you see, those people can buy a scrap, and then they know how to put it into pieces. And what they get from that is almost getting to the cost of the new car. So don't see them like that, because one thing you need it.
They are specialists in the field, and they can advise as to what part is relevant for the car.
Yes, because you can have your car here, part you don't need it, because but they know which part can, they know how to partition it, to sell it part by part.
Speaking from West Africa, and then as an education expert over the years, do you see whether the education system is synchronized with big countries like Nigeria is called Big Brother in West Africa? Why are the curriculum not synchronized to have all these, since they join the same WAS, and then they could share more together to keep the continent moving together, so that the imbalances will not be so absolute?
I can say that they are of different pace. As I said, we all belong to West African Examinations Council.
Yes.
And as I always say, West African Examinations Council is for all the 5 or 6 countries: Gambia, Nigeria, Sierra Leone,
Liberia.
Yes. I'm sorry, is it 5 or 6?
4.
Yes. It's Gambia, Sierra Leone, Nigeria,
Ghana,
and Liberia. 5 countries.
Yes.
Liberia came later. So they make the parent ground level. If you want to introduce anything, because they are service providers.
Of course.
Okay, I have developed this curriculum. I want you to examine it. I want you to develop assessment for it. So that's it. So it depends on the country. There are general subjects that everybody must do. But then each country has that right to be able to, say that, okay, for me, I want this kind of mathematics. You develop the syllabus and the curriculum. We will develop the syllabus and the materials. CS to the WIEC. WIEC will develop assessment.
assessment tool,
yes. So we find out that over the years, places like Nigeria, Ghana, they have expanded.
Because they are at liberty to do so.
Everybody was at liberty. For example, for us, perhaps maybe, I mean, at the time, you know, it might be our level of awareness or maybe the equipment. Because even me, I have served as director of curriculum, but I mean, it took me time to be able to discover all these things. Understand what I'm saying? So
at the moment, based on all this research and responsibility you have done in the system, can you point to us where the future of education as far as Africa is independent? We're talking about 56 independent of Gambia next the coming few hours.
The future of education depends on the Gambians. What I would say is that we need to find out what we need, develop our strategy, and work towards that. We need to also be wary. We need to be also careful of what comes from outside. You know.
tey moom dama ne naa ñëw xool si sa tabax gi.
loolu nag kontaan naa si bu baax.
seen nag yow kontaan nga waaye man kontaanuma ndax bul fàtte ne man ak yow ñoo bokkoon nekk bitim réew ma yónnee xaalis bu bëri pour ñu sampal ma suma néeg waaye bi ma ñëwee ba agsi la ma fa fekk sama xol neexut parce que tabax gi àggut fen te xaalis bu bëri laa ci ñàkk. yow nag bi ma waxee ne da ngay samp ak léegi yàggu dara.